Hi, my name is Mark Becka and I have been working in the drain care industry for over 20 years. If you have ever come into contact with a lift station, you know how difficult it can be to get to the source of the issue as well as finding a solution that actually works. There's a lot to learn before deciding what kind of solution would be suitable for your lift station, and I am here to provide you with some of the most common questions I get asked regarding lift stations, starting with, what is a lift station? A lift station is basically a pit with a series of pumps and floats in it that takes all the wastewater, which is called black water, from a facility and pumps it out to the sanitary sewer system. Black water can come from anywhere from a restroom, from a kitchen, drain, just about anywhere you could think of where any dirty water goes and would go into this pit that would get pumped out. So another question I get asked often is a sump the same as a lift station? They're completely different. A sump handles what we consider gray water, which would be like excess flood water, and that pumps out to the city's storm sewer, not the sanitary sewer. So there's a big difference in the water it takes in and where the actual water goes when it gets pumped out to the city. So another question I get asked a lot is, where would I find these lift stations inside my facility? And usually when you're looking for a lift station, it's usually going to be in the lower part of the building. So it could be in the basement, a sub-basement. It could be in the bottom of a parking deck. So there's a lot of different areas it could be in, but usually be lower in the building than most of the actual plumbing of the building. The next common question I get asked is, what are the issues you might find in a lift station? There's really only two, and sometimes they're combined together. But the first one would be odors, and this just comes from what's actually in the pit. We're talking about wastewater again here. And that could be a problem with odors inside a facility. And then also we have, which is probably the worst problem, is the fats, oils, and grease buildup inside that lift station. This is what causes the system to fail. And when it fails, you get backups really bad. So this is sewage water we're talking about getting backed up into an apartment room or something like that. So it becomes a real issue. And sometimes the two combine together. So you have odors and fats, oils, and greases. So that would require different products altogether. So the next question that comes up is, what kind of products would I use? It's really going to depend on the problem that you're having. If you're having odors, you can use a floating degreaser to cap off those odors. If you're talking about fats, oils, and greases, you can use an emulsifier to get rid of them quicker, or you can use a biological, which would just be a series of bacillus blends of bacteria that would actually digest what's in that pit from the fat, oil, and grease standpoint and not cause any downstream issues. Over time, it would be a much better option for you to use inside of a lift station for fats, oils, and greases. One other question we get asked a lot is, how often do we treat and at what dosage rates? And it really depends on the size and total issue of the problem that we have on hand and how bad it really is. But we can do it a couple ways. A lot of people like to slug feed, or what we call just pouring the product in. And that could be done on a bi-weekly basis, a weekly basis. Dosage rate is going to, again, depend on how bad the issue is. But we can also automate it. So we can hook up a pump system to put product in every day, so you don't have to worry about actually going there and actually slug feeding the product into the pit. And lastly, an important question that we get asked a lot is, what about my local regulations? Are there any issues with how I treat my lift stations? Usually with local regulations, it's really geared towards grease traps, because grease traps are made there to catch grease, so we don't want to actually go around that policy. With lift stations, it's much more open, and we can treat those with biologicals or emulsifiers without really any issues from the local regulations. But the company you deal with should know those local regulations, and if not, they're easy to find out, just to make sure we don't bypass anything we should know about. Thanks for taking some time and listening to me today about lift stations. If you have any questions about products, you can go to stateindustrial.com, or you can fill out our Contact Us form and send that to us.